Hello everyone and welcome to The Spawn Point, a weekly podcast where 3 or 4 people gather together and talk about a current topic in gaming at the moment. This week I'm joined with Steve Barnett.
Hi.
And on my right of me, Andy Webb.
Hi.
And we have a special guest this week, which is Jean-Luc Picard. Everyone say hi to him.
Hi.
Hi, Jean-Luc. Is he that way?
He's down.
Is he there?
He's down there.
Yeah.
He's that side.
Hi.
So,
Hi, Jean-Luc. Oh.
I don't know why he's face palming at us. But anyway.
I feel like it's because it's gone horrible already.
Yeah, he knows how this is going to go down. So this is our first episode, so hopefully we don't screw up completely. But who knows? Anyway, our topic for this week is virtual reality headsets. Are they going to catch on? And is there really any point to them, I guess? Because recently Project Morpheus was revealed at GDC, which is the Game Developers Conference in San Francisco. And so the PS4 is going to have a virtual reality headset. People are wondering about if the Xbox is going to have one in the future. And then there's other things, obviously, like the Oculus Rift. And I want to say that Google Glass is in the same kind of, even though it's not for gaming, it's still a headset that, you interact with. And
I mean, I feel like Google Glass is more of an augmented reality type thing.
Can we just scoop it under the same carpet?
Yeah, okay, but I mean, I think something like Google Glass is probably more of a gimmick than something like the Oculus Rift or
so let's prone in.
PS4. Let's
prone in on gaming. So we've got the PS4 Project Morpheus, nothing to do with the Matrix, by the way. You've got the PS4 headset, virtuality. It's not out yet, but there is a prototype, and you can check it out. We covered it in the news. At that point, we didn't actually know what it was going to be called, and it was still speculation and rumours. But then there's this competitor, which is the Oculus Rift, which has already been out, already, I'd like to say well established, and developers have had their hands on it. This is the thing, though. Developers have said they prefer the PS4 VR headset to the Oculus Rift. So, Andy, you checked out Oculus Rift.
Yeah,
but I guess the kind of thing I want to get at is that, is kind of like motion tracking with the Kinect and the Wii. Is this just a gimmick, these VR heads? Are they actually going to have a purpose, or are we just going to be looking at, the next biggest gimmick, and it's just going to die out, and it's not really going to become anything?
I mean, I feel like I don't feel like it is going to be that much of a gimmick. I mean, I am just, going with our Jean-Luc theme, I'm just waiting for the day that when we actually get a proper blown holodeck, and I feel like something like a VR headset is the next step towards that, which I think is just awesome. And like having played it,
do you think there's a purpose for VR? Like, is it going to make our life as gamers? Is it going to make our life easier? I've got this ridiculous visor on my head, and like somebody walks in my room and go, "What's that?" And I'm like, sorry, I was just on my.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going. It's cool. It's cool, but like,
I can see what you mean. Like, obviously, you're there looking like an absolute dick.
God forbid if they bring one out for the PS Vita and you're walking along the train station like, oh hello, I've got my.
I feel like that would end in bad ways. There'd be a lot more suicides on the trains, wouldn't there?
Oh, wow. Imagine that you're looking at like the underground. You're looking at the underground stop, and you're like, oh look, it's a meadow. Oh no.
We didn't realise it's a train track.
But yeah, did either of you use the Oculus Rift at
No, I looked at the queues and I was like, nah. Even though there weren't big queues, I was kind of more focused on like trying out, stuff that I was used to. I was kind of playing it safe a bit. I kind of felt like I don't want to waste this, like spend this time queuing up for something if it doesn't turn out to be that great. At least with like games that have been in a franchise, I kind of know. I can kind of half expect it to be good. And kind of like in Call of Duty, I can always half expect it's going to be shit. but I didn't actually end up trying it out, so I have no idea what it's like. So it'd be interesting, what you thought about it.
Yeah, it's literally you got there. The headphones weren't particularly the best, so that sort of detracted a bit from the whole experience. But they basically whacked this thing on your head, and it was some sort of war fighting simulator. World War II warplanes.
It made you feel quite sick, though, didn't it?
Made me feel quite sick. So they didn't quite have all of the positional tracking down. So basically, the way that I was just imagining I was actually in a cockpit and sort of looking around and going, "What is happening over here?" You can see the wings either side of you, and then it wasn't quite tracking my head. I mean, I think the stuff like the Crystal Cove prototype of the Oculus Rift and the
Can I
Dev Kit
say
2
the one thing that caught my eye?
helped that.
The thing that caught my eye in Eurogamer, which looked absolutely ridiculous, was it was the Oculus Rift headset. But you know they had that thing that you could run on, and they had that guy who was like.
Oh, the.
I just thought I looked at that guy. I was like, "That is ridiculous!" Like, you know, imagine having that in your house, just like a dome, kind of a circular kind of thing you could run on.
Oh God, what
The guy was
that
playing
called?
TF2 on it, and he was like running around, and it was.
What?
I can't remember what it was called. I have no idea. I just remember it being absolutely bizarre. But
I keep wanting to say the Ouya, but that's obviously not.
no. That's definitely no. I've got one of those. And that's...
It's basically a big thing that you're in a cradle, like a big one of those baby bouncers.
That was it.
And then you got the VR headset, and they had a gun as well, didn't they? I think, or was that? Am I just imagining?
It would be like the thing I can say at the moment, without having any prior experience to virtual reality headsets or anything in that kind of category, is that it will definitely be interesting. It'll be interesting to see. Like what I want to see is to kind of do a horror game where I could be running and I was like looking behind me, and you know there was. I think like certain games could do very well on headsets, and it's limited to certain genres. I think because some have better experience with some and others. But Steve, as a PlayStation, well, actually Andy and you are both like PlayStation fans. Could you imagine yourself? Obviously, cost is a big thing, but if you could afford to do it and it wasn't that big of a deal financially for you, would you invest in this Project Morpheus headset? And do you think that you'd use it a lot, or would it just kind of be cool for a week and then it would just gather dust? You know.
I think for me personally, if I had the money, I may. But the main thing for me is motion sickness, because obviously you got this thing on your head, your brain is telling you you've got this thing attached to you know what's coming into your mind, but you know for a fact that you're not actually there. So that's the thing that would get me the most is the motion sickness. What
do you think you'd use it most for? Do you think you'd be gaming on it, or do you think you'd be like managing different applications or the internet, or what kind of? Could you see yourself using it a lot for gaming? Like, would you just kind of feel like I want to go back to a controller because that's what I'm used to? Because that's the problem with motion gaming. Motion gaming, everyone's like, I can't be bothered to get up and move around. I want to sit down with a controller.
Sorry, Andy, go.
No, I was going to say, I think that's one of the main issues at the moment is, even though I'm just going to go back to the Oculus because I've had the most experience with that, even though you've got that on your head, you've still got a controller in front of you, and that you're still limited by that. So I think that's one of the major issues.
Having a controller and the headset, how much does the controller play a part in your gameplay experience? Is it like, in order for movement, you have to use the controller, but everything else you...
Oh, literally, the only thing... just imagine looking at a screen, but looking at, say for example, you had 3 or 4 different screens around you and a couple up and down. So the controller controls everything, but you can see all the way around you.
Okay, but if I can look around, if I'm looking around all over the place, and I'm like, oh, look at that over there, look at that over here, and I've got my, the analog stick that usually controls like your camera.
Yeah.
If I was using that, would that conflict with me looking around? Like, if I looked left with the headset and I looked right with the controller, would it kind of be like freak out? And
I think out of I think like you would use your thumbs to move that because that's what you've got used to. I think there should be a setting really where you can turn the analog sticks off, for instance. So when you do look up and down, if you do use the thumbsticks, nothing will happen because out of instinct you will use the thumbsticks because that's what we've all been used to.
I mean, they've actually, for Team Fortress 2, they've actually done some prototypes with that, and there's various different modes for it. So there's I can't remember, I saw a video somewhere, they trialled it, where some of them it is literally you're looking around and head tracking, and the gun goes wherever the head tracks, and then it's a mouse and keyboard. But then one of them, the head is independent to the gun, so you're using the mouse and keyboard, and you can move the gun around and move your head around, and then act as if you're doing it that way as well. So it does seem like they can change and chop and change.
And I think that falls back to my point about working for some genres rather than others. Like, I think, first person, like horror shooters can probably work quite well. But like a driving game, probably not. You don't need to.
I don't know. If it depends what you get. Again, it depends what you got. I reckon if you had a steering wheel in front of you, a couple of pedals on the ground, I reckon it would be awesome in a driving game.
But how much do you really? Because most of the time when you're playing these games, like these racing games, and you're in the cockpit view, like Forza, and there's some of the Need for Speed games have had it. But like you're usually fixed to a point where you're just staring right like that. Right, you're not. Don't usually spend too much time looking around because you can usually see most of your surroundings without. You don't usually have to look behind you all the way, and you wouldn't want to because it would obscure your view of where you're going. You'd kind of look in the. Maybe you look in the rear view mirror and be like, "Oh yeah, he's behind." I don't know.
Yeah,
I think for some people, it's going to be out of choice. Whether for instance, for me, if it was Call of Duty, for instance, I would want to use a controller rather than the headset. If it was something like Team Fortress 2, I know it sounds a little bit kind of it's the same thing, but I would want to have a go with a headset. With a driving game, I'd want to use a controller because
do you
for
think
me, it
that's
felt
just
really
because?
weird.
Do you think that's just because we're used to the controllers and we don't want change, or do you reckon that it's just because? Because I think it's got a better virtual reality headsets, virtual reality in general. It's got a better future than motion sense gaming. Like I don't think that'll ever take off really, because
that is a massive gimmick, isn't it?
Yeah, this is my argument about like the motion censoring the Wii and all that stuff. Don't even get me started on the Wii. But I mean, you can sit there and complete any game. You can basically flick your wrist. Like, it's kind of up to how honest you're going to be with yourself. Like, Just Dance, on Just Dance on the Wii, you could do better than someone who does Just Dance on like the Xbox on the Kinect or something, because the person on the Wii could sit there and be like, yeah, I'm doing it, I'm standing up. But most people don't want to get up and be active. They kind of want to. Gaming is like a time you can sit down, sit back in your chair, kind of like lounge about and play. And the character's doing all the hard work for you, you're not doing,
But yeah, I think that's one of the main things that they targeted the Wii with, wasn't it? It was like, oh, you can get up and be really active with everything, and then people found that hey, you can be just as efficient if you're just waving it around.
It's all about being honest about yourself. It's like, yeah, you can, like, if you want to be like, oh yeah, I will get up and do it, but like if you're competitively doing it with someone. If you're competing, which most people do in gaming, you're going to cheat probably. Well, most people do. If they find an easy way out, they are. But like I remember when the Wii first came out, and on that motion sensing thing, the golf, you could swing the opposite direction to the screen, and it would still swing the normal way. So you could I used to like swing that way, and it would go. It was, I think they patched it, or with the new, they made like a new Wii Sports, like a second one.
The super controller thing, yeah.
Yeah, well, they fixed it. But when it first came out, I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, I can just sit here and flick my wrist.
But I mean, definitely with... I can't really talk for the Project Morpheus, but definitely it's more of an additive to the experience, it seemed, in my opinion, than just using everything to control by it. You still need all the peripherals for you to get the full experience from the games. I mean, I think... There was one game, again, I can't remember what it was, but it seemed to break away from the usual sort of... It was a horror game, but... Which
I think do the best on
yeah,
VR.
But it was where there's some... I mean, I've seen a few videos of people playing the Oculus or with the VR, and they're basically like something happens behind you and you're like, oh, okay, take off the headset, let's have a look behind you. But there was this one game where it was literally... You were there, sat on a couch in a living room, and there was a virtual TV screen inside it.
Like Inception.
So you could look around, and while you had the headset on, you were in a living room, but you were playing on a games console in front of you. And then
was that a horror game?
Yeah, it was a horror game. So you basically adventuring through this little sort of 2D platformer, or like a Zelda, so not a platformer, like Zelda, something like that. Finding all these clues, but things are actually happening in the living room around you. Like there's one part with a door.
Can you get up and like move and investigate?
No, you mean you're stuck in the on the sofa playing the game. Just like you say, for example, I'm playing my PlayStation or something. That's the view that you would have, but you could look around the living room just going, what is happening? And the person that I saw doing it was saying, instead of trying to lift up his like headset to try and find out what's happening actually around him, he thought he was in the room.
Yeah, it's almost like his brain convinced him that like, you know, I'm actually in this world. Like, and I think it's really, like I said before, I think it's really interesting. But I have no idea how that's going to turn out for, you know, the Project Morpheus thing. Like, how much do we really know about this headset? I've seen pictures of it, and obviously I had to do some research about it for Vector News, but I couldn't find, you know, everything's very secretive at the moment. All that we really know, all that I know of, is that developers have said they prefer it than the Oculus Rift, from a developer's perspective, that is, than about consumers, and that we now know what the prototype looks like, but in terms of like what it looks like with it on, I mean, did they show that at GDC? No, like,
I don't remember seeing anything. I mean, I haven't really watched any videos of it.
I just see this picture, like, here it is. This is what it looks like. Yeah, see you later, folks.
I mean, they have said that the spec is fairly similar to the Oculus with regards to sort of the frame rate and the screen size and everything. The only difference was the Oculus has got an OLED screen, whereas the Morpheus is just an LED screen. And the field of view is slightly smaller in Morpheus. It's 90 degrees instead of 110, citation needed.
Because, I couldn't fully find anything about why developers thought it was better. They just thought it was more impressive. It was like, it's more impressive than the Oculus Rift. Like,
I think they're hiding it all at the moment because it's still in early development.
And and this is the other thing. So Sony announced this headset. They're like, okay, Project Morpheus, it's true, we've been working on a VR headset. It's in development, here's a prototype. And then everybody's basically looking to Microsoft and like, so that Xbox One headset, right? And they're like, you know, they're not saying anything, obviously. It's a smart decision. But most people now think, I've seen numerous articles on the internet about it, that the Xbox One will eventually get a VR headset to try and... Because this is like, I don't want it to be an argument. Like, if people watching this, don't get into an argument about like consoles in the comment section or anything. Because I'm not like a fanboy of either system, but it kind of feels like at the moment that, like, my personal take is that the 360 was ahead of the PS3, but with the PS4 and the Xbox One, it seems like the PS4 is always one step ahead of the Xbox One at the moment. Like, they do something, and Xbox One are like, yeah, we do that as well, but they're always like just behind.
Yeah.
So I think they probably will end up doing a headset as well for the Xbox One. But I don't know how it would be used and how it would turn out compared to this Project Morpheus.
I mean, going back to sort of the subject in total, I think a console VR headset's going to be more gimmicky than a PC-based one, to be honest, because I reckon a PC-based one, there will be more applications, because I could see them potentially using it for, I don't know, like flight simulators, so teaching pilots, instead of just having them in a virtual cockpit, they could probably cut costs down by whacking something on like that. I don't know.
It makes more sense as well to have it on PC, because you can do more.
Yeah, whereas with the console, I think it's going to be more of a gimmick on that, because I reckon some people are going to buy it.
It's almost as if like the response to like, no, consoles aren't dying, we have a VR headset. You know, like a way to validate.
Sorry.
That's right.
Yeah, no, go on, Steve. Yeah.
My honest opinion to do with it, if, talking about that now, if, for instance, we all know that this headset's coming out, would I actually buy it? We all know that the price is going to be astronomical. It's not going to be a cheap thing. It's not going to be 150 quid. You're talking at least 300 quid at least, maybe even more than that. My personal opinion is I probably wouldn't buy it because... to do with motion sickness and stuff like that. Like, I do struggle with things like that. So for me,
say for example, they managed to sort out the motion sickness. Would that be a game changer for you? Would you
It all
adopt it? Or do you,
depends. I mean, I think really it's for horror games. That's the way I think about it. Call of Duty and racing games, I wouldn't use it for that. I mean, other people may, but for me personally, I'd only use it for horror games. And how many horror games do I actually play personally? Not very many. So for me, wouldn't be really worth the money I would be spending on.
My view is to kind of I'm going to treat it like, at the moment, I don't have any next-gen consoles. I don't have an Xbox One, I don't have a PS4, and I certainly don't have a Wii U. But this is the way my plan is for next gen. I'm going to wait it out. I'm not going to get one immediately. And it's the same thing with VR headsets. I won't get one immediately. I'm going to wait and see how things pan out and see how because straight away it's going to have problems, or it's going to have kind of like lots of improvements going to be made. It's not going to be at its full potential. And it's kind of like the next gen consoles. You want to wait until the systems are taken full advantage of and people are familiar with developing software for these systems. And I think the same thing with the VR headset. Don't get one when Project Morpheus does eventually become available to us. If you're a PS4 user, I'll say this: it might be tempting to get it straight away because you might want to be one of the first people to try it out, but you're probably better off. Not only by waiting would you probably get it for cheaper, and they'll probably realise they're overcharging people or they're not selling many. They'll reduce the price probably. That's my prediction. But also there'll be more patches and improvements made to the software, and there'll be more improvements made, and there'll be more value for money because there'll be more around and more to make use of. And if it does turn out to be a gimmick, then you haven't invested in it yet, so you're safe from, that kind of investment of wasting money.
I mean, it was who was it? There was a game developer. In fact, I'm going to find it. There's a game developer that was saying that they weren't going to invest in VR until at least a million units were shipped. I'm going to see if I can find that.
That seems like a sensible
Ubisoft
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ubisoft, 1 million VR sales needed before it will invest into
but
doing
then
it.
here's the problem: if everybody had that attitude, now I'm kind of contradicting myself here, but if everyone had the attitude of waiting, and nobody had the confidence to invest straight away, then it would be able to get off the ground and wouldn't see that happen anyway.
Yeah.
So somebody's going to have to step up and kind of start off.
I think that is the one issue. Like, if everyone is going to be like Ubisoft and say, I'm not going to develop until people have bought it, then it's just going to...
It's like no one's going to buy it because...
No one's going to buy it because there isn't anything out, which is one of the sort of main reasons not to get one of the next-gen consoles on launch day, because there wasn't anything out to really buy with it if you had a decent PC.
And it's going to be another thing, thinking about it now, PC... Like, if you get it on a console, so let's say I bought a PS4, I bought the PS4 VR headset when it first came out, so it's going to be as expensive as it could be. And I'm also paying for the PlayStation Plus to play online with my friends, etc., etc. So I'm paying for all of those, which is quite an expensive kind of like hobby to upkeep. If I'm on PC, I don't have any subscription-based costs. There's probably going to be more to make use of because it's cheaper to develop applications for it and stuff. And the PC, you're using it for other things anyway, so you're not spending so much money just for something that can do gaming. You can use it for so many other things. And I think the amount of investment that's got to go into having a console and a VR, they might do a bundle. I reckon that probably will happen. They'll probably try and bundle somehow eventually to kind of bring costs down and get people to, because bundles tend to usually do better than just buying individually. It's like you get all this for a certain amount. And I can see the headset, the system bundled together and something else, but
yeah, I mean, it's a kind of a thing for me that it wouldn't really be my cup of tea, to be honest, because I know for a fact I'd probably use it once or twice and it'd get put in the cupboard to gather dust, and it'd just be a waste of my time and money.
I'm definitely worried about that. I mean, I've got my Kinect to the left of me, and the dust on it just speaks for itself. I used it for a few weeks, and then I was like, I just want to use my controller and sit back, and it's not really... It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah.
But yeah, so hopefully that doesn't happen with VR headsets and with the PS4. It's definitely going to be interesting, but unfortunately, there's so little information about it that we can't really make a full judgment.
So you two saying gimmick?
I'm going to say that. Yeah, I'm going to say in terms of for like the PS4 and for like consoles, it will probably turn out to be a gimmick. But if they find like maybe the Oculus Rift will survive better. Maybe if VR headsets there's more VR headsets for PC, they will have more of a purpose, more likely to be better value for money, kind of more cost productive. And I just think, yeah, overall, for PC, it's more. It can kind of justify itself more as a essential thing to have. But I think for gaming, yeah, it probably turns out to be a gimmick. There's not enough purpose to use it.
I kind of think myself is that I kind of think it'll be a gimmick on the reason being that I don't think they'll be able to keep the price down enough, and people won't be able to afford to buy it or won't buy it because will they think to themselves, can they justify that they're actually going to use this product? If it's going to cost them £400, for instance, are they going to use this £400 product day in, day out, or is it just going to be a one-time thing and then it's going to gather dust and they've just wasted £400? So that's the thing that I'm kind of asking myself, is that I don't think that it would really last too long on console.
I mean, it's
PC.
What the current dev kits for the Oculus were $350. I don't know what. Although I think the PlayStation stuff quoting something stupid actually.
Yeah.
And also the dev kit that was provided for the Oculus Rift wasn't at the same time as the PS4 dev kit, so it's kind of unfair to. It's like comparing a last gen console to.
This is a new one. This is a new
one.
Oh,
is it? Oh, really?
Yeah. It was $300 for the dev kit one. But yeah. But
I think it'll come out of way more than that when it launches. My prediction is I reckon it'll be at least 400, maybe 450, at least. That's just a low end price.
So what do you think, Andy? Do you think it's a gimmick, or do you think there's life for it after all?
I reckon definitely for consoles. I reckon it's going to be a gimmick like 3D gaming and Kinect. But for a PC, I think there's going to be more valuable applications for it, even if it does turn out to be a gimmick with gaming. I reckon there is going to be more valuable applications in the future for it.
I want to say this actually. I think, now I know this sounds really silly, but I don't think we're ready for this VR for consoles yet. I don't think we're ready in the aspect of time. You know, I know we're in 2014, but I don't think that we're at the right stage yet for VR headsets for consoles. PC, yeah, because they've got a lot more kind of things they can add to it and, you know, and do different things with it. And the price can be kept down. But with consoles, I don't think we're at the right time period for it.
But we're nearly in 2015. We've nearly got hover cars. Come on.
I know. I know.
I see
but
what you mean. No.
Like, you get families that are just living off the breadline and stuff like that. How can, you know, some families struggle to buy the Xbox One and the PS4. So how can a family justify paying, you know, for instance, £500 for a VR headset? Because I know for a fact I couldn't do that. I couldn't even afford to buy a PlayStation 4. So, you know.
So I think overall, coming to an end of this podcast is that, will it catch on? Well, you know, that's up for debate. The general kind of idea from us is that probably will for PC. Console, we don't think there is much of a chance. But we definitely like to know what you guys think, who've checked out this video, if you've stayed with us for this long. Let us know in the comment section what you think about VR headsets. Do you think that would you buy one for a PS4, or would you just stick to PC or not buy one at all? Do you think they're a gimmick? We'd definitely love to hear what you have to say. But this has been all from me, Andy, Steve, and our very great special guest, Jean-Luc Picard. Thank you I've got to say I'm impressed that you've managed to maintain a facepalm for this entire duration of this podcast. It's definitely, he's obviously disagreed with everything we've said, and he obviously thinks we've done a bad job. If you agree with Jean-Luc Picard, I think we've done a terrible job, also let us know. But from all four of us, this has been The Spawn Point, and we'll see you later.
Goodbye.
Don't be rude, Steve. Say goodbye.
Bye. Bye.